Okay, we are live with Veronica, and we will be looking at her lunar eclipse in Aries. So, just a note for the viewer. Solar and lunar eclipses happen when there's a new moon or a full moon within 18 degrees of the nodes, either node. So you can see in this case, the full moon is happening just almost directly conjunct the node. Therefore, we have a lunar eclipse. And that's kind of like a full moon on steroids, and we never know what it means until we start to talk and get into the life story, which is what we'll do now. So, yeah, let's just start. First of all, where do you live currently?
So I'm visiting a friend in Atlanta. I've been living in Mexico City for the last 7 months.
Okay, so you've just moved to Mexico City.
Mhm.
And
I mean,
before,
before that, I was in Peru. Yeah, Peru. Colombia, just like traveling around through Latin America. I travel around quite a bit.
why?
Um, 'Cause I love it. I enjoy movement and culture, history, and places. Being somewhere different just feels good. Yeah.
Okay, I'm feeling the Aries, right?
Okay.
Moving around, seeing new things, going new places, but moving, not staying fixed in one place, moving, checking things out. Why? Why South America?
So really big fan of Africa and Asia, actually, but South America is so close to the US, and I just haven't spent enough time there before I go back to Africa and Asia. So there's so many connections between Latin America in general and Africa. And so just wanting to like spend more time in that and exploring it like one or in person is a better way to say it.
Interesting. Do you have any roots in South America?
Mm, so the Caribbean. My father is Haitian, and then my mother is of the Bahamian descent.
You said Bohemian.
Bahamian.
Bahamian.
Yeah.
I see. Okay, so where do you see your family story? Because it feels important.
Where do I see it fitting in with my movement?
How would you like what can you say about your family at large?
Mm, I mean, everyone is in Miami. Most of them are in Miami, based in Miami and in the US. Um, my father left Haiti when he was maybe 20 and was undocumented for many years, maybe until I was in middle school. And he has been absent from our lives maybe the last 20 or so years. Um, so my mother's family has been where most of the relationships been cultivated. Um, like trauma and all that type of stuff for sure. Um, and so cycling in and out of relationships with the family and then coming back together.
Uh-huh. Okay. There I'm feeling the Aries Libra, right? The cycling in and out, Aries breaking relationships. Does that mean you've lived maybe with different members at different times? Like you moved around
Yeah,
well?
yeah, I have quite a bit. So when I was a child, very young, maybe like two or something like that, I lived with my
Just
aunt. Oh,
sorry, just one moment because
go
maybe
ahead.
it's your microphone or something, but when
Okay.
you're talking, it's um you're almost like garbled sometimes and then it's clear.
Mm, how is this?
This is well, let's see. It's better now.
Okay. I'm not sure what's affecting it, but you can let me know. Maybe we can try again with the mouth. Yeah, so as a child, very young, lived with my aunt and my grandmother, and then back and forth between my mother. And that went on until, honestly, even until adulthood. Like after college, again, was cycling through my grandmother, mother, and aunt.
How come?
Um, mm, I'd say like tensions between myself and my mother. And then, really was close to my aunt, really enjoyed being around her. And then, also, my mother was not as stable when I was very young, so needed help from the family
Not stable in what way?
financially.
Uh-huh. So
Mhm.
what would that mean for you?
As in why I wasn't with her.
Well, if somebody is not stable financially, like
Mhm.
either they're running around trying to get money.
Oh, I see what you mean. Um, well, she didn't go like the traditional route of her brothers and sisters. So she didn't go to college. She was with my father. And so just the life they lived, they just didn't have enough money. They just didn't have enough for maybe until I was maybe 8 is when we got a house.
And until then, you were moving between houses wherever you could go, or
No, so we got an apartment maybe when I was like 4, and so then that was a bit of stability. So from 4 to 8, we were in an apartment. So then I would be living with my aunt just like on the weekends or the summers or something like that. Then it was a more of a healthier balance with that.
okay. I'm feeling the Libra, like moving between different people and having relation, like multiple homes, kind of that you relate
Mhm.
to. And then the Moon and Aries, like the constant shuffling between them. So it's never like you really land, or at least that's how I heard it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even now, it still feels like that. Not feeling like I ever really find a place that I completely can or want to land in. But there's also this piece that is wanting more stability and to stay in one place, or at least have one place, but still be able to move around.
Okay, so it's giving kind of nomadic.
Yeah, heavy.
Uh-huh. Okay, therefore I feel the lunar eclipse in Aries, right? Because Aries is moving all the time, never stops. It never
Mm.
settles. It's just forward motion, breaking things, exploring, adventure, fun, excitement, but also violence, pain, right? Separation.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that. I mean, I don't know if with Aries it's solidly like space, but it also feels like that in relationships, in jobs, in like so many different pieces of like what makes up my life. That same story of like constant movement, and a lot of the movement being like coming to a violent end in order to like birth something new.
Oh, can you give an example of one?
Mm, um, Okay, I can say like in my last job, and this is something that has happened in multiple jobs though, but in my last job, we had all of these really big administrative changes, and folks were leaving. Everyone was, no one was getting laid off, but people were quitting. There was a lot of quitting, right? And I was being encouraged by people who'd left to also quit, including my boss and things like that. And I was like, no, still holding on. And then I had this one meeting actually where I felt super disrespected, and it was around my travel, me taking travel days. And I still went on the trip and everything, but when I came back, the way that it was handled made me so angry that I quit. Like I never came back in. I sent in a letter and I just closed everything out, and it was like very much a dramatic exit. Like everyone heard about it. It was a big thing. Even though there was an option before maybe of me leaving like in a more smooth way. That's it.
Interesting. Okay, so do you see the lunar eclipse in the 10th house Aries? dramatic closings, quittings, leaving suddenly, spontaneously. What did you do for
Definitely.
work, by the way?
So I've worked in communications. That's my background.
Okay, what kind of?
Um, so it was an international development, and then this last job was for the federal government.
Okay. So what is something that you would do?
You mean like a daily thing? Hmm. I mean, something like a press release, some social media stuff. A lot of the things I did was about like programming around people. So it's humanitarian work. So folks who, for instance, had like issues around like health or HIV. I was a part of the Ebola response. And so I would get placements for my jobs, my organization in the international newspaper. So a lot of like trying to get higher profiles for us. Um, and then writing, a lot of writing, interviewing, meeting people, making connections, things like that.
This is an aside, but I just feel like adding it because it came through pretty strong.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Have you heard about Spica?
Mm-mm.
Spica is what they consider the luckiest star in astrology. It's the
Mm.
sheath that the Virgin is holding. So it represents like the marketplace and getting a good price and having something for sale and like growth and development and yeah, just establishing more connections and through those connections getting larger. So your
Mm.
sun is conjunct Spica, like exactly, because they're both at 23 degrees. And
Interesting.
when you say that you were featured in international newspapers and it's a lot of relationship work and a lot of like communication. So there I feel the sun, Libra, Spica. And
Mm.
also because it's the fourth house, it makes me think because the fourth is not just about your home and family, it's also like the place where you live, like either the city or the country that you feel you're a part of. Actually, the sun in Libra in the fourth makes me think about you having like multiple countries where you feel at home. Maybe you have a couple homes that you move between. And then I'm going to remove Spica just for the sake of clarity again.
I definitely feel really comfortable in a few different places in the world. And I can also feel that there will be more places. Um, but even when I move around, a common element is how deeply comfortable I feel right from the beginning. Like that's something that pops out to people and that they often comment on.
Hmm. Are you like very much an initiator? Like you would start a campaign at work, for example, you would lead a new project, a new initiative, go into new territory. It just feels like there's not stagnancy here. There's more like crisis.
Crisis is interesting. Well, so what I'll say is I feel like I really struggle to take on the role of leadership. And I think part of it is being afraid of like failing in the spotlight or like envy or something like that. But in every organization, every job I've ever had, um, I would, I've always done a really big project. I've always started something really big, and it's been very successful. And it's been something that's lived after I've left.
Okay. That makes me think about your sun conjunct Spica again.
Mm,
Yeah, that you're a person that creates things that last and they're huge. And also the lunar eclipse in your 10th Aries, that whatever you're starting, it's always big. So you have some kind of impact professionally.
mm.
What about your work currently? Where are you at with your work now?
So that was initially what I wanted to do, the North Node. Um, I'm just feeling hazy. So I've started and stopped some things. sort of like moved into the mental health space, got a whole bunch of certification, um, and but I've just sort of like stopped. Um, and then I've been doing some stuff around travel, and then just kind of petered out. So yeah, and all of it is around like virtual stuff and like creating content. Which whenever I create something, it does really well, and I get a lot of interest. But I will just sort of like yeah, not complete it, not continue the consistency issue.
So you would do what? Like just start something else instead?
Yeah, I'll start something else. I'll get distracted. I'll be like, well, I don't know how good this is. Maybe I need to actually, and it needs me to focus on this part of it first. And then, all of these different reasons why I can't continue on the exact track that I'm on.
Interesting. I start to feel how we're missing some of the planets. But there's something I
Mhm.
want to point out, even it's kind of outside the scope of the ask, but who cares? I'm going to show you anyway. Um, it's about where Saturn is transiting right now. Saturn is going to station at 14 Aries, exactly conjunct your moon, close to the North Node.
Mm.
So that you're kind of at a place of stalling at the moment. This is immediately what I catch, right? And so that transit is
Yeah.
going to continue for, well, a short while, let's say, until
Okay.
2028. So that tells me that you're kind of in a very important, like there's something new beginning, and it's very big, but it's also you're like
Mm.
on the outskirts and you're not really ready to launch, right? Because Saturn is gonna go retrograde before he reaches the moon.
Mm. So fun.
Is there a project that's coming that you're kind of gearing up for?
Yeah, so I've been working on like a travel related project, slowly, like just these different components and elements of it. Talking more of my experiences overseas and a lot of the interesting stories and what I've experienced and things like that. But it hasn't hardened into what it's supposed to look like just yet.
And so what's the ultimate you would host tours or
I don't know what the ultimate is, honestly. Where it's starting is just mostly creating content online. Um, like I can, what it really feels like is like that's just the start. It feels like that's the start. Like there's going to be much more, but I'm just not even sure yet. Um, but also, I can feel that when I start, it's going to be great. It's just, yeah, struggling as an initiator, even with all that cardinal stuff.
uh, I get it. Okay, it's because how can I explain? It's again because of where Saturn. So keep in mind that Saturn takes 30 years to complete one cycle around the zodiac, right? So what that tells you is you're actually ending a 30-year cycle at the moment and beginning another one, but it's like that period of transition, right? So 30 years obviously is like a career making number. So
Mm.
now when you tell me that piece, and I know Saturn is conjunct your moon and north node, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a massive new project that you're launching, and it's like in it's like under scaffolding,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm receiving that. Like there's definitely gaps in this process for me that I've been trying to figure out. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's always like timing. So
Hmm.
as long as Saturn is there on the moon and north node, it's the transition. As soon as he starts moving away, that's like the project has begun and now it's developed.
Mm. Okay.
Makes sense,
Okay.
right?
It does make sense, actually, especially when you talk about timing. Yeah, because I mean, it really feels like I have everything I need to make this happen, and yet for some reason it isn't. So
Okay.
I've done
What
like
would,
the theater.
what do you imagine are kind of, so what would be happening once you launch? Is it, yeah, what would be happening? What would be your actual work?
Mm. So this is like where it gets like into this whole thing because in my mind, so all of this stuff is like kind of tied together. So there are these different components. There's this component of um, I mean, a lot of it is like political for me.
Mm,
So, like, yeah, so like community building, like folks understanding that the experiences that people are having in one place are very similar to what's happening in other places. And I see so many disconnects when I'm here in the US or in other countries where I feel like those gaps are where a lot of these harmful practices pushed forward by different like companies or whatever entities are keeping people divided and able to like eat up the earth and humans and all of that. So in my mind, a big part of this travel project is presenting to folks how we're all connected and broadening the mind in that, broadening it and showing us how to connect, showing people how to connect, like making that clear. And like I am such an example because I live in that, I have a very diverse friend group and the way that I move through the world is reflective of my values, but I struggle to share them in a way that just like feels safe for me. um, you know, yeah. Did that answer your question?
well, it's very interesting what you're saying. I'm feeling the Libra sun in the fourth very much. Building a bridge between people, showing them that we're not so different one from each other, choosing cooperation, and also that it's in the fourth house, which is your home country, right? So being heartbroken that people are distant,
Mm,
trying to find a way for them to come together and to understand each other intimately, fourth house. So in all of that, and also the way you move through the world, that you're a friendly person and you like to connect with people, there I feel your sun in Libra in the fourth. And again, that it's
mm,
conjunct Spica, that you're so justice, politics, everyone, let's get together oriented.
definitely. Yeah. So that's always been a big part of my work too. Activism, community organizing, things like that.
There's the Aries, right? The one to push the envelope, the one to challenge the system, the one to arrange something, the one to get something going. When you told me earlier that you also about having the spotlight, I was thinking about your sun in Libra.
Mm,
That's the sun there isn't necessarily all for the spotlight. It's like, no, let's spotlight what we're doing together as a team.
yes. That feels good for me, for sure. That is the way that I like to move through the world.
Uh-huh. Okay, because it's the lunar eclipse, to me it feels like whatever you're gonna bring through with your travel project, which it sounds like something much bigger than just tourism, right? I hear that there's so
Right,
many.
right, right, right.
Yeah, I just feel like you're creating something of significance. Again, because it's the lunar eclipse in your 10th house and it's happening while Saturn is transiting your moon and north node. So I immediately feel like, okay, there's a really interesting project coming to life at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I do feel like it's going to be something really amazing, but it's like needing to lean into that Aries confidence and like really own it. Like that really is the thing. Um, yeah, where I struggle is, ooh,
What does that mean? You you would have to launch something?
mm, honestly, like I don't even think I need to start with a launch of anything big or great. Like I think a few TikTok videos would be a great place for me to start. Like that is literally how granular, we can begin with that and then the writing, I do quite a bit of writing, like just sort of connecting all of these different yeah, like creating an ecosystem is a big part of it. And then and what I also know is that when I get out and I meet people, like when I go to events, it doesn't even have to be like a networking event. It could be an art event, but just going out, meeting people, like it is like I really shine. I always connect. I always like when you were saying the thing about the high profile, what it made me think about was when I was in Mexico City and I went to this um, event that an embassy had, an African embassy had, and I was just, you know, a guest, and I was all over the news multiple times in the story. So it had nothing to do with me. And I remember just thinking, like, okay, like I need to be continuing this sort of momentum and movement because it happens very naturally.
Wow. Okay, I'm feeling the sun Spica again. Right, being published just everywhere for your work with others.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that tells me that you're also well received in other countries. Okay, it's like ambassador energy.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I feel very comfortable like meeting folks across the spectrum, all sorts of places and spaces. It's a really big thing for me, actually. So it's really easy for me to make connections and even like make things happen that are can be really complicated for a lot of other folks and where they like struggle. I do really well with that.
Like what? Just as an example.
So, I mean, it can be really complicated when you're trying to just enter into systems like banking systems or something like that.
Aha.
And so I'll always manage to find someone who can be really helpful, who's an actual banker or who, you know, has a contact or whatever it is, and like shows me what I need to do and it gets done.
Okay, there I feel the Libra again, the all the relationships that you get things done through, but I also
Mm,
feel the moon in Aries, that you're the one to kind of make it happen. As soon as you know what's next, you're like, all right, I got it. So
yeah, I
moving.
do. And it honestly feels so natural. Like as we're talking about it now, I've been recognizing like more and more how that is the like I wouldn't have described myself in that way, you know, I'd be more self-deprecating. But as we're having like this honest conversation, I'm like, yeah, that is how I have been able to successfully move around in so many different places because of those sorts of things.
What is your this is kind of a really wide question, but it's about
Okay.
your relationship to like men and male
Mm,
energy and being in male fields.
male field. Um, hmm. So I've always been someone who's like done really well with men in terms of like dating, um, and usually like end up dating very successful, wealthy men.
Uh-huh.
Um, but that same sort of like relationship thing we were talking about where things like end and that kind of thing, like it's been a thing that I struggle with to stay in one relationship with one person and yeah, just like feel
Um,
comfortable and yeah. But when you say male fields, I will say what pops up for me is how much I have this story that there are so many male dominated fields that make really great money, and I want to enter some of them, like business wise, especially in places like Africa or Asia. But it's really difficult for a woman because those places are heavily patriarchal. And so that's a whole thing for me.
okay. Because Aries is the universal sign of male energy and men in general, right? Because men have a different way of behaving, very Mars. So as soon as
Yes,
I see your moon north node there, I feel okay, men are a big part of your story.
they
And also
are.
like being a woman that is a newcomer amongst the men, right? Moon in Aries.
Mm,
And the other part that intrigued me is like the fourth house, because it's your family, let's say, it's also your spouse or your partner, you know, if you just have a boyfriend. So again, that you have Sun conjunct Spica, and you end up meeting men who are wealthy and they're very successful.
yeah.
Yeah, so that you are in those circles inevitably without meaning to.
Mm. Yes, yeah, totally. Like it's not so many times it's like incredibly random. I mean, like I will be in a small restaurant in some random part of town and meet someone who, I mean, literally this has happened, who owned a whole bunch of
Yeah.
mines. And it was
Okay.
just like, yeah, like things like that.
Do you have
I
anyone in your family also who's like well known or well off?
do actually, my
Others
aunt.
coming up or your aunt? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is she like politically connected as well? Like,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that's so crazy. She was the second Black judge, female judge in Miami. Really well known in like all of that space. And then, she had a television show, that's like an international show, very well known. I mean, we did get stopped different places, people know her, things like that. So that's crazy that you can see that.
yeah, and that makes me think about the lunar eclipse again. I
Mm,
feel her represented by that, right? Because she's known in the whole collective,
mm,
right? So she's kind of more a part of the collective destiny or whatever, let's say. And again, the sun Spica in the fourth house, right? So being related to someone who's very famous, and in this case, perfect, it's a judge, Libra. And what
mm,
about the Aries lunar eclipse? The Aries is the newcomer. It's someone who is like a rebel, breaks the tradition. So that makes me think about her being the second Black woman,
mm.
right? Aries.
Right. Also, like lots of first in her, like the TV stuff. A lot of things that she got like, written up profiles about like first and things that she like broke and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, disruption. I feel you being a disruptor, but not in a negative way. It's more like introducing new programs.
Mm. Well, I mean, I would say that's definitely how I show up in the workplace, but even, I feel like so a big part of what I was doing in Asia was just traveling through and like living in temples and learning from these different teachers. And a lot of what I learned was so different from, what we'd be hearing back home in the West, but also like, in Black communities and things like that. It just was so different.
Mm.
And so finding ways to translate what I was learning and grounding that into like wisdom that I could share with folks like that was very disruptive. I mean, at first it was super difficult. I mean, it's still a process, but it's happening. That's what comes up for me when you say that. But everything, honestly, like even my perspective around nature, like that's just not how a lot of folks in my community are talking or feeling comfortable with. It's like, yeah, you can kill some things, or just a lot.
Okay, I feel you challenging people, but at the same time, you do it very nicely. You take them into consideration.
I do. That is definitely how it works. I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I don't want to alienate people. I don't want people to feel judged. I still feel like they feel it though, because whatever. But I really, really try my best. And I've been like that since I was very young. And it's one of those things where I didn't even recognize it. It would be more so when, other people would make like certain comments, not even nasty comments, but it'll just be something like my mom was like, I remember there was like some argument that happened in a restaurant. This man was yelling at his daughter, and my mom was like, I wish you were there because I know you would have stopped him. And I was like,
Yeah,
what? What would they? Okay.
totally. I feel you getting activated when you see injustice, and that's when you stand up.
Yeah, definitely get active, get involved. I feel really strongly
Mhm.
about that.
Hmm. Okay, great. Let's pause there for today.
Yeah. So, do you think you got some good stuff for your podcast?
Well, what do you think?
I think so. What I liked about it was I think it like helps people to see how you can bring a birth chart to life. Thought it was really cool, like when you could see the stuff around my aunt, or even like the little elements you brought in, like the spica and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, I think you got some cool stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, you're very open in your storytelling. You're totally with the stream. That's what makes the big difference. So yeah.
I
Okay.
tried to be.
I'm gonna yeah, I hear the Libra so much. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording now. So to
Okay.
anyone that has well, see you next time from Veronica and myself. All right.